All right, Panther fans, hockey fans. That's the opposite of the way the Stu wants me to say it. But either way, the title of this video, I just want to be clear right off the bat. This is not a MacKenzie Weegar hate video. In fact, it could end up being the opposite by the end. I'm not entirely sure where this is going, so let's just get there together. Now, by now, most of you have heard the Elliot Friedman thing where there's the rumor, the conjecture, and he's reporting that the Panthers had tried, are trying, or still continue to try to move Sergei Bobrovsky, right? So when Stu and I first heard about it, we kind of said, that's not going to happen, right? Zito's not stupid. Spencer Knight's not ready, yada, yada. Then I started thinking, that's always a dangerous thing. So a couple of things I thought, a couple of things were brought to my attention. Number one, I forget who it was. I want to give them credit. This wasn't me, but I believe it was somebody either in the comments or somebody on Twitter made the point about Bobrovsky that he had a bounce back season and whatever his value is might not get any higher than right now because he's 33, going to be 34 years old, not getting any younger, as we all know. And he had a good season. And obviously in the playoffs, he certainly played well enough to carry a team as far as the team was going to go. If they could have scored 2 goals, 3 goals every once in a while, a goal would have helped in game 4, a goal, different subject. So looking at the cap, now I am not a cap guru. I look at what I see. I take it at face value. But the thing with the Bobrovsky thing is I keep seeing it out there. I was hoping if I ignored it, it would go away, but it ain't going away. I still see people talking about it. I see articles. So I wanted to get ahead of it, so to speak, and give you my thoughts. So basically, there's a lot here. Is there should we, can we, will we, etc. Now, complicating things, not only are we in cap hell, we are in cap hell, yet we only have 9 forwards signed for next season. I don't know if you guys can add, but that's not enough. Okay. We have a list of guys who we need to sign that I'm going to rattle off here. These are just the forwards that, well, the only guys under contract, let's put it this way. The only guys under contract in the forward department are Barkov, Reinhart, Huberdeau, Hornquist, Bennett, Verhaeghe, Duclair, Lundell, and Lomberg. And out of those 9, Hornquist and Huberdeau are in the last year of their deals. So we are in cap hell, so to speak. Now, how does MacKenzie Weegar affect things? Well, right now, Weegar's got 1 year left on his deal, okay? The going idea is that we're not going to be able to afford him. Now, we don't know that for sure. We don't know. I know there's been people that thinks he's going to get 8. People think 8, 6. If he gets 8, that's more than Ekblad. I don't think you're going to pay Weegar more than Ekblad. Ekblad's got another 3 years on his deal. So I don't believe MacKenzie Weegar's getting 8. But let's just say, I bounced around the league a little bit to get some guys that are comparable age and whatnot. And let's just go with 6.5. Let's say he's asking for 6.5. That's what Justin Falk got. I'm not comparing them as a whole, but same age-ish, close to the same amount of points. Falk had more goals. Weegar had more assists. So he got 6.5 years, okay? So let's just pretend that Zito has decided that he wants to keep Weegar at all costs. We've got to have MacKenzie Weegar on our team. And he's talked to them and he said, we'll sign for 6.5. We'll give you, in their eyes, a little bit of a hometown discount. Okay. Now, the only way the Panthers are going to get that kind of room, there's very limited ways that they're going to get room for that. So number one, Claude Giroux is a no-go. Let's just start there. Number two, you're not going to re-sign Achari. There's going to be a little bit of money there. the only other real ways that the Panthers can clear space for guys that, let me preface this by saying I'm not advocating for either of these moves. These are not moves I want to happen. I'm just sounding the bells. Okay. Patrick Hornquist, a buyout would actually save us over $3 million. We wouldn't even have to move him. Again, not advocating for that. Just saying that Zito is he's in a tight position. He's got the moves he's made. He's still dealing with things that Talon did with the Yandel hit and the Bobrovsky contract. So, and remember, I love Patrick Hornquist. Well, we took Hornquist because Talon gave Matheson all that term. So this, Zito, sometimes when you have bad decisions that were made in the past, there's no good way to undo those. And so you have to bite the bullet there. Now, before anybody gets started, forget about a Bobrovsky buyout. I've seen a couple people talk about that. A Bobrovsky buyout is just about $6 million. Let's look at it. I've got it up. I want to get it right. A Bobrovsky buyout is 5.75 this year, 6.75 for the next 3 years, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more years at 1.75. So you're not buying out that contract. Any benefit that you would get is going to be gone with just buying them out. So that's out the door. So the only real way to create room for MacKenzie Weegar would be maybe a buyout of Hornquist. Duclair's contract is movable. Okay. And now we start getting into the weeds of things of, like I've talked about. That's why Owen Tippett got so many chances. That's why you need a Hepo Niemi or Deanna Senko. You need to be bringing up some guys, because you can't just have a team 100% of high quality, veteran, well-paid players. You've got to have young talent that can play well for you at a cheap price mixed in. There's just not enough there unless you're only paying your goalie like $3 or $4 million. And then there's probably room. So if the Panthers have decided we want to keep MacKenzie Weegar, you've got to slot $6.5 million. He's not going to take less. I mean, if Weegar comes back and says 5, even 5, which is obnoxious. But even if he was to say, give me 5 times 5 in imaginary fantasy land, we'd still have to move somebody to make room for him. So he's up against that. Now, this is the thing that I've been thinking about. And again, I'm going to get to the end whether I think we should do any of this. This is different than what I think could possibly happen. Okay. So bear with me. If they've decided Weegar's going to be too pricey, if Weegar's camp has come to them and said, we'll take 7.5, we want Ekblad money, or 7.25, whatever it is. Right. And if they've already made the decision that we're going to let Weegar go, Weegar's cap hit this year is not that much. It's under 4. Okay. And then he doesn't have any term after that. If you wanted to pick a team, remember, Bobrovsky's got the no move clause, so we're limited there. But let's say you could get a team interested in Bobrovsky, and now we're looking at our cap situation, and we say, hey, how about Bobrovsky and Weegar? You get Weegar 1 year, kind of cheapish-ish, right? If you're a Weegar believer, if you like his style of play, the contract he's on now is a little bit cheap. You send him Weegar along with Bob. And then you say, this year, we can't cover any of Bob's salary because we've got other business to tend to. We've got the Yandel hit. All right. Then maybe in the following years, maybe because you give him Weegar for basically taking on some cap, you only take maybe we retain 30%. If we can retain 30%, then we've got $3 million in dead cap for the 4 years. And then we're done. It's not optimal. It is not optimal, obviously, but I'm laying this out there. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of if they've made these decisions. If they've decided we're going to move on from Bobrovsky and we're going to go with Spencer Knight, number one, you're still going to have to bring back a high caliber backup goalie, because I don't believe Knight's ready to just go out there and play 55, 60 games. I believe he's close to ready in net, but his puck handling skills need work. He needs games. Now, the Panthers have the offense to make up for the mistakes that Spencer Knight might make in puck handling right now. So you guys know I'm a huge Spencer Knight fan. To me, I can see the box that Zito's in. And I can see the person that made the point about Bobrovsky's trade value probably never being higher than now being viable. You are rolling the dice. If you keep Bobrovsky another year, 34-year-old, right? 34, a 34-year-old goalie, what happens if he gets hurt? A groin, a knee, something, okay? His trade value just went kaputs. He's done. And now you're stuck. You're stuck with that contract. So from that perspective, I can see where Zito might be looking at things going, this is going to be a move he's going to have to make at some point. At some point, we are going to have to eat some of Bobrovsky's contract because of Spencer Knight. That's coming one way or another. So when you know you have to do something, then you start thinking, when's the best time to do it? And right now, we do have MacKenzie Weegar, as for some teams, he would be an attractive add-on. He would be an attractive piece. So if we've decided to move on from Bob, and we've decided that we cannot afford Weegar, if Zito has said those things, it would make sense to me to throw Weegar into the deal so that we eat less salary. Now, where would that be? How would that work? How would that look? What would we get in return? Your guess is as good as mine, because the 20% of you are going to say Weegar's worth the first. 20% of you are going to say you'd be lucky to get a third. And with Bobrovsky, you have to take the contract into consideration. So what? Both of those guys, you get a first in return, and you only have to take 30% of Bobrovsky's contract after this year, not this year. Whoever takes in this year has got to take the full 10 because we've got the Yandel hit. So you look at it that way and you say, well, we're going to lose Weegar for nothing, and we need out of Bob's contract. You get a 1 in return, and you have $3 million of dead cap for what? For the last 3 years of his contract. It's not great, but it gets us out of a bad situation, and it uses an asset in Weegar to get us out of it. Now, again, it's not optimal. Can I even say that's what I want to happen? In a perfect world, what I would want is 1 more year of Bobrovsky. I want Spencer Knight to get more ready. Maybe an even split. Maybe more of a real 41 and 41 game split with Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight. You give Bob the 1 more year, see what goes on. And then at that point, you've got a guy who's got 3 years left on the deal. You're still not going to want to be buying him out. But the downside to that is, the more I've thought about it, while it's not optimal to trade him right now for the product on the ice next season, in terms of assets, of what we could get back and assets that we could give to cut down on the percentage of the salary that we need to retain, this is actually the best time to do it. And I don't want that to be the case. And if somebody can pitch me a scenario where it'd be better to wait, I'm all for it. I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm just saying, if those are the decisions that Zito is going to make, if he knows we're not keeping Weegar and he knows it's time to get rid of Bob, because I don't see any other options. You know, Hornquist, I want him on this team. To be honest, I'd like to see him get extended for an extra year or two, obviously at a lower salary, but I want Patrick Hornquist on this team. Duclair, yeah, he's kind of tradable contract. You could probably get something back for him. He's only making $3 million, but there's no reason why Duclair only got 3 and some of these other guys got 4, 4.25. You saw it in the playoffs. He's kind of one-dimensional, and he wasn't bad defensively during the regular season, but he also, when you get benched 2 out of the 4 games against the Lightning, and that's Brunette, right? He's not like the bench guy. You don't see Brunette benching a lot of guys. So obviously he was unhappy with his play. So, I mean, that's a movable asset. But even then, that's still just maybe gives you enough money to re-sign Weegar. So at that point, now you start thinking about, well, are losing those guys worth signing Weegar? And again, it's going to have something to do with, are there any free agents that Zito might see that could come in and be comparable? Do they want to re-sign Sherratt? What's the situation? How does he feel about the defensive guys in the AHL? You know, we've got some of these guys, Lindbohm, Carlson. To me, we talked about this a little bit on the stream last night. If we went into the season with Ekblad, Forsling, Montour, Gudis, and then had a bottom pair of like Lindbohm, Carlson, Haig, Carlson, one of those, any 2 of those guys, it's not optimal, but we have the offense to overcome that, right? And then you fix it at the trade deadline. You figure one of those guys, Haig, Lindbohm, or Carlson, one of them would work out at least 5D, right? Or even if one of them only works out at 60 and you need to go get a 5D at the deadline. So I don't necessarily think that if we lose Weegar that we have to just immediately go out there and replace him. We've got some room there, and with the way our offense scores goals, if we're a little bit not great on defense to start the season, we can survive that. As you've seen, just get into the playoffs. Winning the President's Trophy doesn't mean cock-a-doodle-doo, okay? So getting rid of Weegar doesn't mean we have to immediately go out and get a top pair guy. That's something we can deal with later on down the road. In case you guys didn't notice, defense wasn't the reason why we lost to the Lightning, but neither was goaltending. And that's the other thing to it, is that now Bob shows up and becomes what we would need him to be. And then again, like I said, only 9 forwards signed for this season. 2 of those guys, you got to make decisions on. If you're going to re-sign Huberdeau, you want to extend him this summer. Hornquist, if you're letting him play out the rest of his deal and you're letting him go, all right. But if you're looking for money, as much as I like Patrick Hornquist, I do not want that to happen. But we've seen stranger things happen. We've seen worse things happen where you have to get rid of guys to make up for previous mistakes. That's $5.3 million. So in Zito's mind, it could be coming down to, well, we can afford Weegar if we get rid of Hornquist. So many moving parts. So I've said what I would like to see happen. In a perfect world, I would want one more year of Bob, one more year of Spencer Knight getting ready. And let's look at Spencer Knight's contract for a second. I want to look at this because, these guys aren't signed for forever, right? So where's my Panthers? Here we go. Spencer Knight is signed. He's signed just for next season, people. I didn't even realize that. Spencer Knight is only signed for the 22-23 season. So, yeah, he's restricted after that. But remember, Zito did say that he was going to work over the summer on the guys that had expiring contracts like they did with Barkos. And you want to get stuff done a year early. There ain't no room to give Spencer Knight any money right now. So that could be another factor in there. So I guess the point is, as much as I would like to say, ain't going to never happen with Bobrovsky getting traded this season, the more I've thought about it, and the more I looked at the numbers, and the more I thought about the Weegar decision, there are multiple paths to where I could see Zito getting to the decision that, okay, we need to try to make this happen. Now, there's a lot of reason to think that they would want to make it happen now. Can they do it? Now, that's an entirely different thing. First of all, Bobrovsky's got the no trade clause, he's got the no move clause. So wherever he would go, he'd have to approve. And it's funny because on a post from Twisted Wrister this morning, I made the joke about, hey, Colorado, How about Weegar and Bob for a first and the retained salary at 30% after the annual thing? And then I got to thinking, well, if we did that with a team, they're going to need to move somebody. So at that point, you might be thinking we'd want a Kemper-like type of guy back in return, or to a lesser extent, the Drieger. I know he didn't have a good year last year, but there's so many moving parts here, and you could say Spencer Knight's ready. Even if you don't think Spencer Knight is ready, you still got to have a guy you got to have an experienced backup. And, a big part of our success this season was we had two goalies. When Bob went down, I believe it was after the All-Star break, right? Yeah, because Spencer went down to the minors. And then when Bobrovsky was sick/injured, Spencer Knight came in. He played 5 or 6 games straight, and he was really, really good. You need two goaltenders, and we have two goaltenders. And if you trade Bobrovsky, now we're looking for another guy. So then how much are you paying him? How much are you paying a backup goaltender that could possibly be your starter and be expected to be good enough to take you through a playoff run if Spencer Knight falters? 4, 5, right? Okay. And you got to resign Spencer Knight. You got to resign Spencer Knight. So, and if you're eating cap, let's say you've got 10 right now on Bob. If you eat 3, you got $7 million left to go get a backup and pay Spencer Knight. Obviously Knight's going to get a bridge deal, and how long that's going to be. How many years? 2, 3? You're going to want to give him more than 1. Cap hell. More than anything, I do believe this offseason is going to be a little bit painful. Not overly so, but we are not going to have the luxuries that we had last season. We don't have any more draft capital to go out and get a Giroux or a Sherratt at the deadline. That's toast. We don't have the money to go out and replace guys in free agency either. We're gonna have to see, and I know I've said it a million times. Damn it! If Owen Tippett could have become even 80% of what we needed him to be, he could have slotted in at the top 6, filled a spot cheap. So now it's going to be up to the next: Denisenko, Heponiemi, Sron Noel, Hutsko, Samskovich, if I'm saying his name right. We've got a few guys. I don't have any first-round draft picks for a while. And that might be part of the allure of possibly getting rid of Bobrovsky or Weegar, right? We talked about this in the stream yesterday. I didn't think Weegar's worth the first. Bud thinks Weegar's worth the first. I see contrasting opinions there. We ain't going to know what he's worth till if we trade him. We're not going to know what he's worth until it depends on the other team's situation and the assets that they have, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like with Sam Bennett. Some of us were like 2 2s, and now we're like 2 2s. So what one player is worth to another team all depends on where that player is going to slot in and how they're going to fit. And we're out of draft capital. We can't go giving up any more one. We don't have any ones to give up, right? And I think, is it this year or next year we don't have a 2 either? Or was that the Dolphins? It all runs together for me. So, all right, that's enough. To summarize, I would rather keep Bob one more season, roll the dice, and see what happens. More I think about it, the less convinced I get that that's the right thing or the best thing to do. Finding a possible suitor, I'm glad that's not my job. Because first, you got to go to Bobrovsky and say, where are you willing to go? And that's why I thought Colorado, because I'm like, all right, he'd go over there. That worked. Weegar fits the Western Conference style. They love him over there. Let's do this. But you need Bob to say yes. And you need a willing partner. They've got to have the cap space too. That's the other aspect. The other team has to have, if you're taking on Bobrovsky, you got to have 10. If you're taking on Bob and Weegar, you got to have about 14. And we don't have any room to offer up to take space for you. Not this year, because of Yandel. It's a mess. It's a disaster wrapped in a mess, wrapped in an apocalypse. That's what it is. So I'm just being devil's advocate here. Last thing I'll say, Panther fans, is don't be surprised if one or two names get moved, bought out, released, that you say, what the hell are we doing? There's really no path to bringing back the entire band. And if you did, it's very, very risky because of Bobrovsky's term that's left. We're going to lose a guy or three that nobody really wants to lose. And God, as much as I hope it's not Patrick Hornquist, that is a big number. Releasing or buying out Patrick Hornquist, I guess it's the same thing, but I don't want to do it. But if Zito really gets backed up against the wall, right? Okay, it could happen. It could happen. So, or Duclair. I didn't see anybody else. I mean, I'll look one more time just for, I mean, defensively, you're not moving Montour. Well, we can't do that. We don't have guys. I mean, Weegar's one thing because he's expiring. Radko Gudas is on an expiring contract. You know, it's $2.5 million. That doesn't really help us much. And in the wingers, Barkov's not going anywhere. Reinhardt's not going anywhere. Huberdeau is going to get re-signed. Hornquist at 5.3. And then Bennett at 4.4. For Hagee, it just went out 4.2. Duclair at 3. Lundell at 9. Lomberg at 8. And that's it. That's all. That's all we got signed. Everybody else is UFA except for Luosterainen's RFA. It's a mess. The more I look at this, the more I think about it. It's a mess. But it makes for good content. So, all right. I'm very curious at everybody's opinions and thoughts. I know there's going to be 20% that think it's a great idea. 20% are going to think I'm Cocoa Puffs. There's no, again, when you do stupid things as a franchise, there's usually no good way out of it. You have to bite the bullet. We're biting Yandel's cap hit next year, and it's still going to cost us. It's still going to cost us somebody this year. That hit is going to cost us somebody unless Zito can pull some magic unicorn out of his hat and get Bob and Weegar to the same team, giving us some room to sign Spencer, to get it back up. And, you know, Marchment, Mammon, we need guys. We got 9 guys. It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. All right. I will see you guys just in a couple of hours with the live stream before the game tonight, then the recap after. Stu and I'll be back in the morning. Appreciate all the new subscribers. And like I said, let me know your thoughts. If you guys have any ideas like where we could send either one of those guys or where we could combine it, like I said, I'm not a cap guru guy. I don't know all the intricacies of everybody else's situation. So this video is just as much for discussion as an opinion as anything else. So, all right. Appreciate all the support, and I'll see you back tonight.